All right, so I can ask our communications team if they will do a word cloud on that. I'm sure they can. And we have a baby word cloud from our online community with some additional takeaway messages here. So collaboration was big. I heard community big in our room. And hope was big in our room, power and empowerment. We have purpose here. We have empathy, depth, inspiration, encouragement, driven, intention, stories, wisdom. So we will collect all of these. We want to make sure that we're collecting and we're feeding back the information from the rich, rich day that we've had here. But I do actually have Otho that I'm going to introduce now. And Otho is going to pull together a lot of the themes that he heard. And again, he brings a diverse perspective to this room. And we asked him from his perspective to actually address what he heard today. So Otho is a founding partner with Encourage Capital. And Encourage seeks to leverage private capital to solve critical environmental and social problems. He's leading an effort to work with Alaskan Native communities to develop carbon offset projects that will positively impact both the environment and the economic condition of land-owning Indigenous communities. Otho's worked in investment banking and asset management for over 20 years. He started with Goldman Sachs, but he started his professional career as an attorney. He received his BA from Dartmouth, his JD from Harvard, and most recently, Otho was an ambassador for health equity, which is a program sponsored by the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. And Otho is one of our advisors of our program. So thank you, Otho, for agreeing to do this.
Thank you, Kimber. Well, I want to thank Kimber and Ivory and Charlie and Laura and Derek for pulling off another wonderful, precisely convened, thoughtful, and intelligent event. Thank you. I want to honor everybody here and your participation. I want to honor Dwayne Proctor, who every time he opens his mouth, I learn something new. It's just like every time there's a new fact or insight, and I thank Dwayne for that. I have to honor Nicole Bronson and Puni Jackson. As I listened to them, I was thinking, you know what, I could listen to those two all day long. They just, Nicole can talk about cardboard and it would sound interesting, as was mentioned. I was asked to give my insights on the day, and I'm going to provide them from the perspective from which I come. And Kimber shared a little bit of my background, but I wanted to share some of my background as well to help inform your perspective on my insights. I'm African American, I'm gay, and I'm focused on environmental conservation. That panel with Michael Curry, Harper, Jean Tobin, and Puni Jackson was sort of a panelization of my life, actually. It was wildly representative. But I grew up outside of Boston, Massachusetts, in Waltham, Massachusetts, a town of about 60,000 people, akin to Jaward Barnes's family being the second African-American family to move into Elkhart, Indiana. My mom and dad were the second family, African-American family to move into Waltham, Massachusetts. And I had an extraordinary experience. It was, we weren't wealthy. They were both government workers, but it was a life of privilege. I was somebody who had parents who loved their kids to death. We focused on education. We focused on health. My mom died a few years ago, and her last text to me almost was, "Did you get your flu shot?" And I did, by the way. I get my flu shot every year in honor of my mom. But I lived a privileged life, and but my parents taught us to think about the other, and we were really good growing up thinking about the other and having empathy. Somebody pointed out, I thought to myself, oh, that's the word I should have used, empathy. But my parents taught us empathy and taught us about thinking about the other. And so I left Waltham, Massachusetts. Mind you, I graduated with an identical twin brother from Waltham High School, a class of 1,000 people. We comprised 2/3 of the African-American population in our high school. I went off to college, law school, and started a career in law and then investment banking. But throughout all of that period, I wanted to do something that had impact. While I was an investment banker, one of my bosses asked me to participate in a program that ultimately became something called the Institute for Youth Entrepreneurship. I was one of the co-founders. And it was a really wonderful experience where I got to found this organization on the side of my professional career, and it was one about impact, having an impact on young people in a community where we were going to teach them economic self-sufficiency and economic literacy. But it gives you an insight into what I wanted to do. Fast forward, late 1990s, I was part of a fellowship with the Rockefeller Foundation where I was allowed to participate with 22 extraordinary people. I was the least impressive person in the bunch. They included people such as Dan Gross, who up until a week ago was the president of the Brady campaign against gun violence. Mark Solomon, who is one of the leaders in the country with regard to freedom to marry in California, Massachusetts, and nationally. Regina Benjamin, one of Barack Obama's surgeons general, and the current mayor of Los Angeles, Eric Garcetti. It was a great group, and all of them sort of driven to have impact. And I was part of this group, and we've all worked collectively since then to have impact in a variety of different ways. But the one thing that we were taught during that fellowship was this concept of minoritarian leadership. We were taught how to cross lines of difference, cross lines of resistance, and inform people about what we wanted to do in terms of changing the world, but engaging them in a way where we were able to create allies where they were not necessarily natural allies. We also learned to work together. Fast forward to 10 years ago, and one of my fellows, Jason Scott, who worked with Al Gore on climate change, engaged me and asked me if I would help co-found a firm to focus on impact investing in the environment. That firm, Echo Asset Management, merged with another firm that we shared space with, founded by Jim Wolfenson, focused on impact investing in the social space. And we created this firm, Encourage Capital. We are an impact investing firm. And as an impact investing firm, we're focused on catalyzing private capital to generate a rate of return for our investors while also having a measurable and demonstrable impact on the environment or on social issues. In particular, the area that I'm focused on is environmental impact. In order to have an impact investment, you have to find an opportunity to find cash flow that can be returned to an investor and generate a rate of return. Otherwise, if you're investing in a project that has impact, it's just charity if it's not generating a financial rate of return. The wonderful thing about impact investing, of course, is that if you can generate a rate of return for your investor and have impact, then you have the sustainable supply of capital going into having impact. What's wonderful about impact investing is that if it works, you have the sustainable flow of capital, but you can also have impact without having to worry about moving legislation. Or it's nicer if you have enabling conditions. But the last year, many people said, well, it doesn't really suck that Donald Trump is getting out of the Paris Climate Accord, sort of doing all he can to combat what advances have been made in climate change, combating climate change. And for us, perversely, it's actually good because you know what? There's an opportunity for us to have impact where government's not playing a role. Of course, I'd rather have it be more difficult for us, but it makes it easier because investors want to give us cash and to have that kind of impact. This past year, as Kimber said, I was able to be a part of the Ambassadors in Health Equity program. Prior to that, I knew nothing about health equity. And since that time, I know a ton about it. We've not invested in that area, but what I do know is that there's potentially an opportunity. What I'd love for us to do is to figure out where that opportunity lies. So today, I looked at or listened to the entire program with a variety of things in mind. One is, what are the investable opportunities? I'm going to, can you hold that for a second? Because now I'm going to start looking at my cards.
You can come to the podium, Otho.
I'm sorry?
You can come to the podium.
You know, I'd rather walk around. I'm a walker. So today, what I did was I listened for two things. One is I listened to what the investable opportunities are, but then I also listened for one more thing, and that was the messaging. And let me tell you what I sort of gleaned from the investable opportunities. I don't really know what the investable opportunities are. Dr. Zhao introduced me to, Dr. Zhao's gone, I guess, but introduced me to Aaron Bartley. And Aaron Bartley, as you saw in the video for Push, he's got a program going on where there may be opportunities. There may be opportunities. As I said, we've got to be able to invest in opportunities where there's an identifiable cash flow. The cash flow may come from the sale of products, it may come from the sale of services, but it can come from a savings. And if we can invest in something where we're going to, where an agency or an individual or a corporation can save money, and we can figure out how to split that savings, well, it's a win-win. The individual or the agency which was doling out cash will share in some of the savings, and our investors will get some of the savings. So with regard to the push opportunity, maybe there's an opportunity there. I don't know. With regard to Mr. Su's Magnolia Community Initiative, where is Mr. Su? Is he here? There he is. I was listening to your closed system community situation and thinking, if you have all of this interconnectedness, if you get rid of the silos, can we invest in that space and find ways of creating savings across sectors, across silos? I don't know what that opportunity is, but there may be an opportunity. So for us, I would say that we have to take the time to step back and do some research. It may take a year or two, but figure out where are the big opportunities in the culture of health space to invest and find cash flows that can be returned to our investors. But what we need you all to do is to be the eyes and ears to tell us, are there opportunities out there? Are there opportunities to invest in bodegas maybe and find scalable ways of investing in opportunities for enhancing and eliminating food deserts in communities? The other area I looked at was in the messaging. When we worked with this Rockefeller Foundation fellowship, we focused on reaching across lines of difference. Today, it was interesting to me because, excuse me, what was interesting to me is that I heard two different types of messages. I heard some messages like Shania Taylor's, which I thought was really powerful. But I felt like she was inspiring the choir. And I thought it was really powerful. I thought it was impactful, and I wanted to get up and react to it, and everybody stood up. But then I thought, will it cross lines of difference effectively? And it may. When I listened to Jawad Barnes, I heard him talk about crossing lines of difference and trying to come up with a message that will resonate broadly. So I think what we've got to figure out in thinking about the message for a culture of health is, what is that message and how is it going to resonate? How can we come up with a message that will not only resonate with African American communities in Chicago, but white communities in Appalachia as well? If we can come up with a message that, as Sarah Klein says, is short, that is personal, but can resonate with people, not only inspire the choir, but also resonate with everybody who wants to be part of this large tent, then we'll have come up with a message that really, really creates a culture of health. I want to, let's see, just acknowledge. Jim Marks's comments where he talked about expanding and creating a larger tent. Jawad Barnes's expansion of the tent, and Dwayne Proctor's expansion of the tent. I think we have to create a message that is broad, that is loud, that's short, that's personal, but is inclusive. Ms. Fullalove said at the very beginning of the day that she was inspired by the election results of the last 2 days. And it was a comment that was a very comfortable comment to make in this space. I love the comment. I totally agreed with her. But then I thought, if it's a comfortable comment to make in this space, do we have everybody who we need to have in this space? And so I'm wondering, do we have everybody that we need? Are we reaching out as broadly as we can? Is the tent as large as it should be? If we can make the tent large, create that message, we'll create a culture of health. Thanks.
Great. So we have a very minor charge in front of us. Thank you, Otho. Very inspiring to think about the tent idea and who's missing. And I know Hortensia mentioned that as well in her comments. She asked her panelists, who's missing from this discussion? So just a run. First, I hope everybody is inspired. I hope everybody's been inspired today. I hope everybody is taking away something from this meeting that they learned, a business card, a connection, a thought, an intention to go forward. That is really important for us to know that you have spent your time very well here, and it's time well spent. You don't feel that it was wasted. So we will now move into a reception, and usually people say, I'm standing between you and lunch. I'm standing between you and booze. So I think that's probably even a more dangerous space to be standing in, so I'll try to be quick. The reception will be out in this area out here, and Laura is out there right now, I see, getting prepared. She's going to be introducing all the artists who are here, is my understanding, and be describing a bit more about the visualized art that's on display. I want to say, because I have everyone's captive attention right now, for our advisory members, we will have dinner after the reception, and it's on 7th Street. We will be in the vault. So please make sure that you make your way there after the reception. So you should have that information on your agenda. We'll also be rounding you up to go there because we still have a lot of business to do. Okay. So with that, everyone enjoy, make a new friend, do some networking, drink some good wine, and we'll be in touch.